It's Lebanon Valley. It's Mr. Dirt Track USA. But is Brett Hearn giving up the ghost?
Well, with 2 laps left, Billy Decker didn't think so.
Sure, racing can be lucrative, but the sport does have its ups and downs.
And the good old days may be gone, but not forgotten this week on Dirt.
The checker's out, and here they come.
It's a new decade of speed, and we're turning them loose. Dirt track gladiators hanging on the edge. Over 30 electrifying speedways, racing into the 90s with a vengeance.
Making a move on the inside lane, skyrocketing his way back up to the #1 position.
Now, this week on Dirt, here's Doug Logan and Andy Fusco.
Hello once again, everybody. Welcome to This Week on Dirt. My name is Doug Logan. Joining me, the senior editor of Stock Car Racing Magazine, Andy Fusco. And Andy, I guess the place to be this week was Lebanon Valley Speedway.
I think you got that right, Doug. You know, Kenny Cremont and Billy Decker are pretty rich guys this week, courtesy of Howie Commander and Ken Goey. Also, we'll take a look on this week's show at Racing in the Past, with Glenn Donnelly paying tribute with a new Hall of Fame shrine in Weedsport, and Larry Newber paying tribute with a piece on this particular show.
All right, now the place, Lebanon Valley Speedway, the race, Mr. Dirt Track USA, the purse, $17,500. Our Paul Small has the rest of the story.
The promoter of the Lebanon Valley Speedway, Howie Commander, came up with the idea of a title race in which a driver would be crowned Mr. Dirt Track USA. That was back in 1982, and the 9 years that this event has been going on, Brett Hearn has won 4 times. Our John Snyder talked to Brett this year.
Seems like promoter Howie Commander doesn't want an outsider to win this race. First of all, he's paying his home track boys $2,000 more, and secondly, you weren't allowed to start any further up than 5th place.
Well, I tried to make Howie a deal. I thought maybe instead of starting 5th, we might want to start 15th and go double or nothing, but I couldn't get him to go for it, so I guess I'm stuck with 5th.
The Valley regulars have been snake bit in this high-paying event. This year, they would be led by the defending track champion, driver of the Budweiser 99, Dickie Larkin.
There hasn't been a lot of passing this year at the Valley. Brett can come up here and pass with ease, but we all have a little trouble getting by each other. We've all won a race this year, basically from the first 2 rows. Very few guys have come from the back, and if they have, it's because one of the guys up front is broke and gave him the race. So I think you got to get to the front and just try to hold on.
Larkin would be very philosophically correct about Hearn's performance in tonight's race. Ricky Wright in the 14 and the 10 of John Flack led the field down at the drop of the green flag for this year's Mr. Dirt Track USA. And Billy Decker, starting from the #3 position, wasted no time in coming by Wright to go into the #1 spot. Decker was running very strong. Many thought he was running too hard, too soon. The rest of the Valley regulars were laying back. Here, Dickie Larkin in the 99 challenges with Tommy Corellis, the 57, but Tomcat Corellis would have his share of problems and wind up dropping off with a flat right rear tire. This was the common ailment of the night. Mark Fleury collecting the wall from the black 52 going into turn #1 now. Fleury slides up trying to get by Jack Johnson. Behind him, Danny Johnson, Ricky Hussicks, and Kenny Tremont are all involved, along with Eddie Marshall, and a wreck at the top of the first turn. Coming back down for the restart, Decker maintains the top spot. Now many other Valley regulars, including Ricky Wright, Corellis, and many more involved. The regulars are not holding on at Lebanon Valley in the Mr. Dirt Track USA event. The outsiders may very well take home another big-time payday. Jack Cottrell gets sideways. John Flack hits the wall. Another Valley regular goes down into the pit area with problems, but so does Brett Hearn. On lap number 31, Brett pulls into the pit area with a problem. He's got a tire going down. The Freightliner crew goes to work and gets him back out on the racetrack without losing a lap. But he may as well have lost a lap. As you can see from this spread, he was over half a track behind leader Billy Decker when he got back on the racetrack. Jimmy Horton was making one of his infrequent Lebanon Valley appearances and was doing very well. Here Horton goes and works the outside of the Cottrell #8 coming down the front straightaway. What's that red car behind him? No, not Dickie Larkin. It's Brett Hearn coming up through the pack. The word comes over Billy Decker's radio. Hearn's on the white. He tags John Hewitt as he tries to come by slower cars. Works around Mark Fleury. Decker has got to try to run and hide in traffic because Hearn is on his way forward. Hearn comes up to the active 2 of Horton. This is the battle for second late in the race. Horton slides way up to the top of the high banks at the Valley. Almost gets a piece of the wall. And Dickie Larkin and Doug Hoffman come charging by. But it's a 2-horse race as Hearn gets his first clear look at Decker with just 2 laps to go. Is it going to be another outsider at the Valley, or will it be Billy Decker?
At one point, I almost gave up, really. I thought there's no way we're going to come back through this pack, but one thing after another happened, and we were going pretty good, and darn if we didn't have a shot to win the thing with two laps to go there. And I think the only thing that really kept me going, or stopped me from going to the bottom in that last lap, was that lap car there. Billy probably went with soft tires. He was real fast in the beginning. He just left us. But in the end, I think we were quicker than he was.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 1991 Mr. Dirt Track USA, Billy Decker.
This Wheels Discount Auto Supply Stores crew has done a fine job preparing this car for me. And my brother made a tire decision, and that's the way we went. And we was able to come to the third start spot and grab that lead early there and kind of set the tempo ourselves, which we was real happy with. I think we ran it a little harder earlier than what we needed to, but we were still strong enough to be there at the end.
And was Howie Commander happy that a local had won the lion's share of the purse at Mr. Dirt Track USA? You'd better believe it.
Well, congratulations, Billy Decker. And Andy, how about Brett Hearn? He really runs well on that track.
Well, I'm happy to see Billy Decker win that race. I mean, he needed the money. He's had a bad season the last couple of years. But, geez, you got to hand it to Brett Hearn. He passed more cars in half a race than most guys do at Lebanon Valley in a full season.
He does make it exciting. Larry Newber takes us back in time.
Right after some weekend winners. Stay tuned.
This Week on Dirt is brought to you by Budweiser. Nothing beats a Bud. By Sunoco Gasoline. By Ground Round Restaurants. And by Pepsi-Cola.
Dear Jenny, you're so neat. Oh. I don't usually pour my heart out like this. I'm mesmerized. Your effervescent charm. My passion for you will never be quenched. I will always thirst for your companionship.
Oh, Jenny, you must feel so special.
I feel like a Pepsi.
Mark Kenyon at Mark Kenyon Ford. We're in the midst of a remodeling sale. That's why I'm not in this commercial. Listen, in about 2 weeks, we're going to have to remodel the outside because we'll be done with the inside, and I have to make room. I told all the salesmen to get on the phones and call people they know that want a car. You want a car? Are you thinking about buying a car? Are you thinking about buying a car in the summertime? Well, don't put it off. Come into Mark Kenyon Ford now and get a great deal on a car. Mark Kenyon Ford, Phillipsburg, New Jersey.
From Pennsylvania, take 22 East. From New Jersey, take 78 to Memorial Parkway.
The company picnic's on today. No one's working, it's time to play. We're having fun with the whole crew. Nothing beats the fun with you, yeah. Nothing beats our best Budweiser. Nothing beats the Bud. And we'll toast and cheer with the king of beer. Nothing beats the Bud.
Dirt track and modified, ready to rumble down the front straightaway.
Nerf Bar on Nerf Bar. There ain't no freight train in here. Be part of the wheel jamming, earth rattling thunder.
Dirt modifieds on asphalt every Saturday night at the new Flemington Fair Speedway. Catch the Flemington Sportsman and late models in action too. We'll see you at the square.
Long before there was a Syracuse, there were other big mile tracks like Trenton and Langhorne. I'll never forget my first trip to Langhorne back in 1965. I went with my father, and to think a mere 7 years later, it wouldn't be there, plowed under for a shopping center. Well, Trenton followed the same fate, as did a number of other tracks in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. But at least we've got memories and some old videotape. Here's Larry Newber.
Recently on this program, we showed you some truly remarkable video that traced the history of Eastern racing. Well, tonight we'll show you part 2, and it's very appropriate that we stand in front of this car because this car, along with its driver Jack Johnson, is very important to the contemporary history of dirt modified racing. The car also proudly displays the same color and sponsors of the most important car in pavement modified history, that of Richie Evans. Here's part 2.
Trenton, Langhorne, Redding. 3 words that stir the racing fan's imagination, yet also crush his soul. This trio spanned the years 1924 to 1979. Redding was the first of the 3 to go up and the last to come down. Redding actually spanned several eras and careers. None more famous than the Flying Dutchman, Tommy Hintershitz, shown here in the 50s. Modifieds next ruled the Redding roost, and their stand was the track's most glorious. Al Tasnadi, in a car owned by the Cozy family, incidentally, Buzzy Ruderman, Freddie Adam, Toby Tobias, and Kenny Brightbill, the heroes who wrote early modified history. Kenny, as you know, is the last direct link. Certainly the old fairground site today gives no inkling. It is unfortunately symbolic of many track fates. Legendary Langhorne, opened 2 years after Redding. Its length, 1 mile and shape, perfect circle, made Langhorne as much instant legend as reality. 2-man Indy cars in the 30s. Flagman, who started races right on the front stretch. The most gigantic stock car fields in history. The weirdest fields in history. Look at here, a Jaguar shares the front row with a Hudson Hornet. Puke Howler to the pavement era and the unfortunate crash that maimed Mel Kenyon for life. Today, the grounds, a Kmart shopping center. Trenton, New Jersey had the shortest lifespan, 30 to 56, but the most revisions. Beginning life as a dirt short track, it later grew to a mile flat oval that was paved. Then a curious right turn dogleg was engineered on the backstretch. 3 and 4 were high banked, 1 and 2 left flat. Truly, America's first modified oval. It too became a haven for modifieds between IndyCar races, and today it's an industrial park. One other racetrack that has bucked the trend is Nazareth. Nazareth too has worn many faces, from dirt through doglegs to its present superspeedway form. Nazareth has a glorious modified past also, and certainly this teenage Italian immigrant is testimony to that. And Nazareth, fortunately, has a sparkling present, where finally the modifieds have been rewarded their just due, and they have been welcomed back. And of course, the contemporary shining star of modified and East Coast racing, the Moody Mile. Maybe the East's oldest track, yet miraculously, it's still here.
Only a few friendly spirits, shadows, and memories remain of racing's past. But, God willing, we will all be able to keep a few facilities like this alive.
Boy, some great memories there.
Yeah, some mixed feelings. I'm glad I got to every one of those racetracks before they closed, but I sure do wish they were still open.
And of course, we'll be headed to Syracuse in just a few short weeks. Now, Dirt Motorsports takes action to preserve our sport's beginning.
Right after some more weekend winners. Look for your favorites on here.
Where your contributions to the American Heart Association go? Walter Davis does.
Are you sure that's the move you want to make?
Yeah, Grandpa, I'm sure.
Research funded by the American Heart Association helped doctors save the life of someone very important to him. His grandson was born with a heart defect. Now this little boy can look forward to growing up and maybe playing checkers with a grandson of his own. You can help prevent heart disease. We can tell you how.
Some people say the most important part of a baseball game is played on the mound. Some say at home plate. Others say on the base path. All are wrong.
It's played up here. And if you don't stay mentally sharp, you don't win. That's why you need to keep your brain in gear, even when school's out. So read a book, write a letter, visit a library, or figure out my batting average.
Because there's no off-season for learning.
This message sponsored by the New York Yankees and the New Jersey Education Association.
Doctors and nurses are no longer the only members of today's healthcare team. Advances in medicine provide exciting career opportunities that offer excellent salaries and benefits, varied educational options, growth and diversity, and the chance to work with people on the healthcare team. For information on a career in allied health, call 1-800-66-ALLIED. That's 1-800-66-ALLIED. This message was brought to you by the New Jersey Hospital Association Nursing and Allied Health Resource Center.
Point races are tightening up all over the dirt circuit, and our Fuji points picture reflects just that.
Right you are. Let's take a look at some small block tracks.
We'll start with Flemington, where Jerry Brophy Jr. leads the way with 496 points.
Moving on to Can-Am, Patty O'Brien, no surprise on top, but Jimmy Johnson closing the gap.
At Merrittville, it's Ron Smoker, then Pete Bicknell.
Frogtown, Jean Larocque is the leader, Doug Carlisle, he's close.
And at Cornwall, Rick Wilson leads the way.
When you go to a dirt track, you often see drivers and their pit crews wiping down the race cars. Well, now everybody wants to keep their car clean, but that's only part of the reason they do it. Here's the Sunoco High Octane Report with Eddie Marshall.
Now, this week's Sunoco High Octane Report.
For this week's Sunoco High Octane Report, we're going to talk about dirt on the race car. During the course of the evening, dirt will accumulate on the race car through the heat race and warm-ups, and come feature time, we try to clean the car as good as we can. One of the most important reasons is try to keep the sponsor's name predominantly displayed, such as ADAP in our case. One of the most important pieces of apparatus for the driver is the tear-offs on his helmet. We put as many as 15 tear-offs on the helmet to keep the vision as clear as possible during the evening. After the warm-ups and the heat, we plug our headers with rags to keep the dust out. Keeps the engine clean, and it keeps some valves from cooling off too rapidly. Very important for engine life. As you can see, the pit crew quickly takes the mud off the car to keep it as clean and smooth as possible. During the course of the race, the long-distance races like Mr. Dirt tonight, especially important to keep the radiator and nose of the car as clean as possible to avoid overheating problems. Also, the heavier the racetrack, the more important it is to try to keep your wheels clean. You can do this by applying silicones to the rim to help hinder the dirt from accumulating. If too much dirt accumulates in the rims, you'll cause a vibration. For this week's Sunoco High Octane Report, I'm Eddie Marshall.
Nothing's too good for my baby. Nothing. So my baby gets very special treatment.
There's a gasoline so special, it even exceeds BMW's detergency standard.
Fill it up. Ultra.
Sunoco Ultra 94. Clean power from the highest octane under the sun. Nothing else can match it.
Nothing.
You know, race fans are similar to fans of any other sport. They love to reminisce about their favorites from the past. Dirt Motorsports has just taken action to save our sport's cherished memories with our version of a Hall of Fame, and Andy has the story.
In the movie Field of Dreams, a voice says to Kevin Costner, "You build it and they will come." Well, this field outside of Weedsport, New York, is being converted into a dream come true for race fans all over the East. It's soon to be the site of Dirt Modified's Eastern Modified Hall of Fame and Museum. The originator of the museum, Glenn Donnelly, how'd you ever come up with the idea?
Well, Andy, you know, for 25 years that I've been involved with Dirt Motorsports, you know, you're trying to preserve something. I'm getting up there in age, although I feel young, and I just like to remember some of the stars that were back in the 60s and the 70s, and I think so would the race fans of not only today but tomorrow.
Now, obviously, baseball and basketball have their halls of fame, but modified stock car racing doesn't have a hall of fame. Do you think this was an idea that's long overdue?
Well, I think so. I think once we open the building, which will be next spring, it'll be one of the priorities on every race fan's list to come out here and see what we've really done.
A beautiful 1936 Oldsmobile Coupe. You know, back in the early days of stock car racing, every modified was either a coach or a coupe. And in the 1950s, literally thousands of cars like this one were cut up and made into stock cars. Well, fortunately, this one was preserved, and it and others like it will be on display in the museum in the Hall of Fame. Joining me to my left, one of the movers and shakers in the Hall of Fame, Gary Spade. Gary, exactly how is the induction process going to go for the drivers?
Well, the first year we're going to pick 12 drivers. And there's a selection committee made up right now currently of 4 people. They'll be meeting in November, and they'll be compiling the information and selecting 12 drivers. We're looking at drivers like Elmer Musclo, Dutch Hogue, Bill Wimble. There's a list of about 40, 50 names right now the selection committee has to go through.
Now, race cars, old race cars, will also be on display other than the ones in the antique cars like the one to our left here. How are you going to go about getting race cars for the museum?
Well, we've already contacted a number of the chassis companies. One is going to rebuild a car they had from the 70s. We've talked to Dover Brake Company. They have one of Buzzy Rudiman's old cars. We've contacted people like Will Cagle to recreate their cars from the past.
I think that combination will make it, you know, a site that everyone will want to see, whether it be for the antique race cars or the Hall of Fame drivers that are enshrined in there, or it's the cars that we have in the collection. It's going to be a huge building. I mean, you're talking 74 by 200. We can house over 40 cars in there, and I just hope that it's something that that can live on for long after I'm gone.
You know it's going to be first class, and I understand it could be open as early as next April?
Well, they've already broken ground. They're going full speed ahead. I'll tell you, I can't wait.
I can't wait as well. Now, coming up, the Weekend Wars.
And our nice and easy driver of the week. Stay around.
Reinforcements arrived in time to conduct some splendid battles for the Weekend Wars.
The Weekend Wars begin with a double show for the big block modifieds at the Orange County Fair Speedway. In the first feature of the night, Bill Cherry and Frank Jarzembowski were on the front row, with Cherry taking the #1 spot going into the first 2 turns. Brett the Jet Hearn was on his way up through the field, but Brett was going to have some problems. As Frank Cozy moved past one of the Rickies, Hearn was falling into the pit area with a blown engine in the Freightliner Express #6. Back to green flag racing here on this restart. One of the key developments of the race, Frank Cozy in the ADAP 72 slips around the one of Sammy Rogers on the restart. Then going into turn #1, mounts the outside groove again and goes around Bill Cherry. Frank Cozy winning the first feature event of the night for the big blocks at Orange County. The small block feature was all Brett Hearn. Here Hearn makes an outside pass going into the first turn on the way to the victory in the small block modified division. In the second big block modified feature event, Bill Cherry got the lead and held on to it to take the victory in the nightcap. At the Flemington Fair Speedway, twin 20s for the modifieds. In the first modified feature, Lenny Boyd got by John Strupp for second, then in the same spot on the racetrack, got by Dick DeRica to take the victory. In the second feature, last week's winner and leader Danny Heber pulled out with engine problems, leaving a wild 3-car dash to the finish between Kenny Brightbill, Doug Hoffman, and Kevin Collins. It was Brightbill taking the victory. Opening lap of the feature event at the Cayuga County Fair Speedway in Weedsport on Sunday night was a wild one. Ted Lamb and Dave Lake come together, Billy Decker involved, Bob McCready in the middle, and a number of other competitors come charging into the fray. Not a good night for Bob. He was caught in the middle of a sandwich. Wild racing at the front of the pack. A.J. Slidways, Alan Johnson up front. Danny Johnson in the black 28 dukes it out with the Butch Tittle Z-car. Danny gets underneath Tittle for the second spot. Then just a few laps later, coming down the front straightaway, Danny sets up his move. Going into turn #1, Alan gets high, jumps the cushion, and Danny goes by to take the victory. At the Cornwall Motor Speedway, a scary incident on Sunday night. Pat O'Brien and Doug Carlisle tangle. Ovi Doira piles and flips the car way into the air. He was taken to the hospital. He returned to the Speedway later to announce his retirement from stock car racing. Mark Hitchcock was setting the pace comfortably in the modified feature go, but there would be more to the story. Chico Dingwall wound up upside down, that's the first part of it, and Laurent Ladesseur wound up with a problem. Mark describes his apparent feature event victory at Cornwall.
You seem to be able to run inside, outside, wherever you wanted to go. You know, I was worried about some of the big guys like Patty O'Brien and Lawrence Ladesseur and Ricky Wilson going around the outside of me, but, you know, we were in there and we were doing our best.
Hitchcock did not take into account that the car was light. He was disqualified after a post-race weigh-in, and Pat O'Brien got the victory. At the Can-Am Speedway, it was the slick track on Saturday night as Johnny Marcinko piles into the wall in the fourth turn, and everybody else is looking for some places to find some dry racetrack. Danny O'Brien found some dry spots as he worked his way towards the front, and then he closed in on leader Jimmy Johnson. On lap number 23, Danny slides down to the inside in turn number 1. They're coming up on the slower car, the number 9 of Dave Carr. Will Danny O'Brien make it by as they go down the back straightaway? Yes! O'Brien gets to the outside of Carr, takes it around the 3rd and 4th turns, and goes on to take the victory at Can-Am.
It worked excellent. You know, the Gallo brothers give me a great car to drive, and they're excellent people to work with. We went into this race tonight just wanting to finish. We've had a lot of bad luck, and maybe that was the way to do it.
And that's the way we do the Weekend Wars. I'm Paul Small.
It's time for the driver of the week, and to start things off, how about a big pat on the back for Kenny Tremont. He won $6,400 Saturday night at Lebanon Valley because he got the Ken Goey Dodge bonus. Unfortunately, we aren't able to show you that race because of technical difficulties, and also, unfortunately, Kenny Tremont's not the driver of the week. This week, we have 17,500 reasons to pick Billy Decker.
So Billy Decker wins $200, a special medallion, and is now eligible for the Nice and Easy Driver of the Year award and $1,000. For Andy Fusco, Doug Logan, thank you for joining us, and so long for now.